Blog Talk Radio.
Hello out there in Blog Talk Radio land. It's a beautiful sunny day here on the wet coast of Turtle Island, the north wet coast of Turtle Island. Actually, it's the mid-wet coast of Turtle Island. I'm Ernie Jacob, and I'm joined by Michael Linton and Colin Stark. And this is the end of the last program in our inaugural week on Blog Talk Radio. This is Open Money. And we're going to do a little bit of a recap, talk about some of the issues that came up this last week, and explore some of these issues a little more with our correspondent from Vancouver, who is the Vice President of Direct Democracy, Colin Stark. Hello, Colin.
Good morning, Ernie. I'm about 5 hours away from you by bus and ferry and so on, but I've been out this morning. It's 2 degrees centigrade. It's bright. It's crisp. There's fog in the hollow, and the mountains are standing up from the North Shore. There's snow on the Lions, which are the 2 twin peaks that stand up highest. It's a wonderful sunny day here.
It's the coldest morning we've had for a very long time. We had frost very early. This is only October. Michael, do you remember a frost this early in the valley?
I don't remember very much at all, but that's got nothing to do with the weather.
Okay, then. Well, let's just get into it then. Colin, you've had a listen to the last couple of shows. What strikes your fancy or interest about open money and lets and community currencies and money generally?
Whoa, what a question to spring on me this time in the morning. It's so complex, but one thing you talked of in your last show was self-esteem. How money is necessary in this world for self-esteem, even though it's totally irrelevant to self-esteem, really. But if a group of people do not have self-esteem, then it affects public health. And it affects public health, such as the downtown east side in Vancouver, it becomes a huge problem to society. And yet it's ignored. We have our Prime Minister yesterday saying that we shouldn't have injection facilities because it just makes drug addicts. It's like saying that if you leave the light on in the washroom, you'll have people coming from all over the city to pee in your toilet, you know?
Well, what's that got to do with money and open money and community currencies? What's the connection here?
I'm not quite sure. Self-esteem, public health, contributing to good causes, all of that needs in our conventional world money. And if there isn't money available for it, then people get pissed off, and they get angry, and they smash into cars, and they make all sorts of trouble, where really what we're not doing is we're not offering these people an opportunity to contribute to society, and we're doing it by depriving them of money.
Mm-hmm.
Is one viewpoint.
Well, and usually the response is, well, the government should take care of the problem, should provide the money.
Well, the government certainly should do something. The government shouldn't say that it's because these people are lazy bums and drug addicts that they do what they do, and that Bill Gates is a great guy because he's touring Africa taking care of AIDS. It's not the case. I said in the meeting yesterday that one of my favorite hates was Bill Gates, because every time I sit down at my computer and it doesn't do what I want, it's because of Bill Gates' shitware. I've been using computers since 1982, and they used to be good. When Bill Gates first stole DOS from wherever he stole it from, it worked. And then up to 3.1, Windows worked. Since version 3.1, Windows has been a pile of Bill Gates shitware, but he's made billions of dollars from it, and he's now fixing the problem in Africa. Well, God help us.
No, God help the Africans. So why aren't you on a Linux system then? I mean,
let's not even go there. Let's not even go there for the moment. But let's draw an interesting parallel between that computer software or computer operating systems, where basically usurped by the Windows grab, by the DOS business, the Microsoft's me first philosophy of computing. And since then, the basic problem has been their monopoly and the difficulty of getting any action from them. Now, contrast this, and there is very little contrast, with a government in office which has cajoled and managed its way into power, and then their answer to most situations is, we don't have the money, we can't afford to do this. The streets will remain a mess because we have decided that there is no funding to support healthcare in this way, education in that, housing in the other. All the things that need to be done, the government is sitting there and saying, just like Bill Gates, well, this is the deal, this is what you've got, don't argue with me, these are the limitations, suffer, baby.
Well, and not only that, I mean, this is how we're going to spend public money. We're going to spend it on the Olympics because that will bring a lot of interest and prestige and money and business and all kinds of wonderful things to the community, and it'll trickle down.
Yeah, grand theory.
That's an excellent example because it cuts across money and governance and democracy. Here in Vancouver, about 3-4 years ago, we actually had a genuine, well, as close as we can imagine to a genuine referendum, and we had it on the Olympics. But it wasn't that the citizens wanted a referendum. It was that the mayor of the city wanted to enhance his popularity, his standing, his public image by having a referendum and being in favor of the Olympics. And so the whole community got aroused to vote. And we voted mildly, I think about 60-40 or 55-45 for the Olympics. But there was about, let's say $80 million spent promoting the Olympics and $80,000 spent opposing the Olympics. So it was a total waste, it was a public, but I mean there was so much fog around the same thing, and there still is. We still have great groups opposing the Olympics. So what is the basis of this marvelous sporting event where human beings compete in athletic competition? Does it take all the money of this huge event to do what is the essence of the Olympics, and how does that relate to open money?
Well, the essence of the Olympics is bread and circuses for the peasants. It's entertainment for the proles, and it's an opportunity for massive expenditures and feel-good, look-good styles of new stadia, flags flapping, all the excitement, the razzmatazz, and of course the advertising revenue that the media abstract from the event, the profits that the construction companies abstract from the event, the general well-being in the corporate sector from having thrown a few crumbs of entertainment to the peasants again.
But there is some essence of pushing the limits of human endurance. Is there not? The actual competitive events do.
Oh yeah, like Marion Jones, today, coming clean that she was downright dirty at the Olympics in Australia.
I missed that, but I was inspired by Katrina LeMay-Doan a few years ago. Maybe it was because of her shape, but anyway, Katrina inspired me.
Yeah, she was very strong and very clear. But the fact of the matter is
there are
that if you
kids
put
on the
all
soccer
this,
field that inspire me sometimes. It's like I think we ought to. Well, let's have a look at it. How would athletics and competition look in an open money world? I mean, we know all this stuff about professional sports and Olympics and How would it look in an open money world?
You'd have a lot more grassroots activity. You'd have more access to playing fields, to ice, to badminton courts, to whatever turned you on. There would be more people involved because in an open money world, there's a lot more leisure. Curious thing about liberating the work situation is that people don't have to have 2 or 3 jobs or work a 60-hour week to keep bread on the table and a roof over your head. So we'd expect the average work week to drop towards about 30 hours or less, and this would
way below that.
Way below that. But in due course, let's not presume too much at the early stages, because actually a lot of people will use the space of open money to actually improve their income. They will continue to work long hours to try and rebuild their personal capital, get the roof fixed. Tidy up a little bit.
And in fact, I would expect some people to work extra hours because they would tack on, whatever money they've got coming from, their job at McDonald's. They would moonlight after work to pick
I would
up on
expect a certain amount of supplementary, better paid as in the green economy. So you start using the McDonald's money, the Mac jobs, as your tax cover and hard edge. But anyway, the general frame for those who are not trapped in that space will be progressively more leisure, more flexibility, more opportunity. And I think in terms of, the physical arts, you'll see kids spending more time outdoors. You'll see more cross-generational sport. And as you take it up to the competitive levels, I think you'd see higher levels of midline sport. I'm not saying that it's going to change the Olympics yet. I think we're going to have to let the Olympics and that little bean feast roll on in its own self-satisfied way for some, perhaps decades, before we'll see some big change in it. There will still be the aspiration to be the winner and therefore to drug yourself up and work like a maniac for 8 years to get there. That's probably unavoidable, while the advertising industry and the media industry and the just general corporate push will put those great fruits at the top of the tree. You two can become the advertising, the poster boy of the year because you ran 100th of a second faster than somebody else. It's business, it's money. That's not going to change. But what people can do with the opportunity of an open culture, that will be fun. I look forward to expansion in sport, culture, art, music, all manner of areas which are currently depressed by the scramble for survival and making a job.
Hold that thought for a moment, because we're at just about at the 15-minute mark, and we ought to tell people that they're listening to Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. I'm Ernie Jacob. Michael is just a few blocks away from me in the Comox Valley, and Colin Stark is in Vancouver. Now, I should point to people to our websites. The easiest one to remember is lets.net, and you can see the other websites on our chat line, or go to openmoney.org and openmoney.info. And if you want to ask a question or make a comment or whatever, you can drop us a note on the chat line here at Blog Talk Radio, and you can also email us. I'm Ernie at openmoney.org. Michael is MWL at openmoney.org, and Colin is C Stark at npsnet.com. Right, Colin?
Right.
And I'll put those up on the chat as well. So, Colin, what do you think about what Michael just said about sports, athletics, the opportunity, the increased opportunity for young people, the old people, everybody to play and compete? I mean, you just did a competition at the Geezer Games in Nanaimo, did you not?
Oh, yes. That sounds fine. Yes, I'm a gold medalist in seniors badminton in British Columbia.
Congratulations, Colin.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you have a recording of
the Canadian national anthem, or do you want?
No, the movie years ago when Ernie, what's his name, won the gold medal. I should be more.
Chariots of Fire is what you're thinking of, aren't you?
Chariots of Fire. Yeah. Play the music. Yes. Chariots of Fire.
Can you sing us the first few bars, Colin?
Scots were here with Wallace bled.
Enough.
Did anyone see?
Far too silly.
Did anyone see Braveheart? Look, Michael, it sounds great, but in technical terms, what you've done is make an unsupported assertion. And sure, the one about how kids will be out playing and so on. And you know, you touch my heart. Here, I live in a small park in Vancouver, and every Saturday morning there are 200 kids buzzing around like bees, from 4-year-olds up playing soccer. It is wonderful, and it can be achieved with minimal inputs from the outside world. The trouble is, it isn't. I've been a senior soccer coach and taken teams over to England. By the time you're 10 years old, or maybe 15 at the most, your future in professional soccer is it's either still there, or for the 99% of people, it is finished.
Good.
So from that point on,
we've got to recognize that professional aspirations are a minor, very minor, and distorting part of the whole process. You never made it
99% of the money.
Yes, quite. But look at your own experience, and you know, you're probably past the professional category now. You're never going to make it
I never was in professional category, no.
Right. But have you had a good time?
I knew when I was.
Sport? Have you had a good time in your career as an athletic, active coach, engaged in the process? Of course you have.
Soccer and sports were my passport to Canada. That's what got me. My first friend in Canada was a soccer player, and many of my, But 99% of the money goes into professional sports.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm saying is, how do we get from here to there, to that ideal nirvana, that picture that you paint, Michael? What are the mechanics of? What's the dog shit stuff about getting from here to there?
Oh, well, the short-term stuff on a small scale would be something like corporate sponsorship for sports leagues for youth, paid in community currency. Now, this is the key. We know all about corporate sponsorship for sports leagues. It's been going on for 100 years. The kids are encouraged, and they get, bus passes or funny hats, or they get to wear the local team colors or something. But it's pretty thin, and it's a hard cash outlay by the businesses, so that's why it stays quite thin. A business that's supporting a sports team is paying out cash. Well, we'd like to see the businesses supporting sports teams by paying out community money, that is, issuing their own money as advertising cost or as a charitable donation, and then seeing the returns on that as business in the door. Now, if business can find business from its support of sport or charities or seniors or education or whatever their preferred direction for philanthropic or commitment to community, then, well, win-win-win. They win business, the sport wins finance and support, and the participants win the benefits of that, and they can still go shopping because they have the community money. That's the nuts.
So are you saying that slowly over the next decade, perhaps the advertising money that goes to the Vancouver Canucks and the National Hockey League, like 10% every year should be moved to grassroots stuff?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I'd like to see that, but we have no leverage to impact upon that, and we can't assume that the financial validity of the advertising cycle will be changed in any way. I think they'll still pay huge advertising expenses, and it'll go in the usual routes. No, I'm talking about a totally new financial support that comes from the big businesses and the small businesses alike, contributing.
New money. I mean, we're talking about new money in the community, new money created by the community for the community that circulates.
We're talking about what you can see. You can see on openmoney.org/CW. CW for Community Way. If you look at that, you'll see the pattern.
Surely when you go to these businesses, even when you go to Van City and say, can you give us $10,000 for community soccer in the east side of Vancouver, they say, well, we don't have that kind of money. We already give $1 million every year to the highest person in the community, so we don't have $10,000, but we can give you $500.
But that's the kind of money. Your line there, we don't have that kind of money. That's the core. The kind of money that I think you're thinking of when you talk about the $10 million that they give here and the bit that they give there, and that we would normally be asking for, no, they don't have it. And even if Van City has a fair bit, Joe's Corner Grocery is right out of it, and the muffler shop doesn't have any at all. So yes, there's a shortage of that kind of money. Now, think of another kind of money. That's the key. Start from the business, be it Van City or be it Joe's Muffler Shop, donates community money, not cash. If they had to donate cash, they'd be suffering as much as us and everybody else. And nobody can do it. We don't have the money. What we do have is community money. Donate that.
And that is a simple process whereby the Joe's Muffler Shop or Van City open an account, and their account simply goes negative by $1,000 or $100,000. Basically, Van City and Joe's Muffler Shop have created a community money that they have given to various organizations in town that comes back to Joe's Muffler Shop and Van City in payment for a percentage of their goods and services. So it's certainly down.
So Ernie, are you, in practical terms, will you and Michael be over here on Saturday to sign up the parents of the 200 kids that are playing in my soccer field out here? Because this is a really dangerous. There are 200 kids playing soccer there.
Well, you're there, Colin. Why don't you sign them up?
Because I'm watching Manchester United.
Obviously, in every such initiative, Colin, there are operational requirements. Somebody has to, print the flyer that explains it. Somebody has to talk to the businesses to get the donations made. Somebody has to be the connector that talks to the parents and says, look, we can really fund this thing if you'll buy $100 worth of this community money. There are interactions. Our experience with this model has shown that those interactions are perfectly straightforward. They can be achieved economically with a minimal output of effort, well within the legitimate fundraising capacity of the project. Quite often fundraising costs 60-70% of the money that's raised. If you see a lot of these coupon books, for instance, or 2-for-1 offers, or just straight what used to be called chugging, the people in the street that challenged you for charitable donations as you walked by the front of the stores. the chuggers. Those guys were costing almost as much as the money they were raising. With the Community Way model, we found out that the cost of running the Community Way model is less than 10% of the money you raise.
I don't at all disagree. I don't at all disagree with you. I made the point that with the 200 kids out there, I know who the key people are. They are primarily the mothers and fathers. Very often the mothers. They're the people that hump the nets out at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're the people that walk up and down the touchline making the white lines. And if inspired, they can raise money for anything they want to.
Not the hell of a lot of money they can raise. It's the old bake sale versus
long-term
the government.
Purpose, you know.
Yeah, they can do a lot, and they obviously are committed. And the fact, if you count the hours that the mothers put in, it's huge. Now, if you say to them, you're already putting in, 40 hours a year or 200 hours a year supporting this concept and bringing your kids to the game and putting out the white lines. Now, with another 2 hours on that 400 or something, or give us $200 and we'll give you 200 community dollars. Well, just think of, you say there's 100 parents out there. If they were all willing to flip a couple of $100 for community money bucks, then the soccer project would have $20,000. Now, if that concept can be communicated to the parents, that's easy, because the businesses are easy.
Can it? Yes.
Can it be communicated, and how? Yeah. Because I've been involved in soccer particularly for 15 years and more, and I don't understand how it can be communicated, even though I see from time to time that
think of yourself as
one critical person in the community sparking this, and God, he's running around with his hip pocket filled with $100 bills.
So,
but only because his kid made the team,
Well,
okay, hold that thought, you guys. We're at the 30-minute mark or close to it. I figured I'd just do a reorientation about where we are. And
no, hell with that. Go to the chat. Go to the websites. If people don't know where they are, then go away. Really, this is not CBC. We're not here to try to distract people. If people are interested, they stay on the job. If they're not interested, go away. And I've got it. The PSA concept bores me. I don't know who else it bores. Let's.net. BlogTalkRadio /Open Money. Follow the lines. Colin.
I'm reading my mail. My mail just popped in the door.
Okay. You're a parent. In comes the mail. The mail says, Colin, we know you're a soccer dad. And we know this because you're on the mailing list of the Soccer Association or whatever. So the Soccer Association says, we're asking you as a parent to look at this proposition. Here's the proposition. You give us $100, we give you $100. How does it feel?
Hokey.
Yeah, well, does it hurt?
Doesn't hurt a bit, no.
No, good. And what's the result of this is that we will have your 100 cash dollars in the Soccer Association, and you will have $100 that you can spend somewhere at the pizza parlor, somewhere in the telephone company, somewhere in your bank statements, your bank costs. Some of it can go into your groceries, some of it can go into your bus fares. But the $100 that you have given to the Football Association is recompensed by 100 community dollars that you can spend in all these places. So you will lose nothing from your spending power by changing your money from the Canadian dollar to the football buck.
I don't even have to get out my easy chair or turn off my TV.
No, in fact, you can do it on the website. You can do it by ticking this box, and you can do send in a check. I mean, you can think of there'll be 20 different ways that you can clear the payment that puts hard cash to the football and puts the community money into your community money account. That's
okay, where do I sign? Where do I send my email to? Who does? This thing has not come into. I just looked at my mail and this thing wasn't in it. Who makes up this flyer anyway? Are you going to do it?
Yeah, we've done several of them. They're easy. Now they're usually going to be localized to the community that wants them, but it's the same concept every time. How would
so
you?
Why doesn't it take off? Why doesn't it take off?
Well, generally speaking, because there needs to be some champion sponsor in the community who does the initial engagement of the businesses and the charities. That's the bit that you have to organize first. It's like the foundations and the footings. If you don't have the businesses involved and you don't have the recipient organizations involved, then there's nobody to talk to the parents, and you don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about the symphony orchestra, you're talking about music in the schools, you're talking about computers for the kids, you're talking about senior support, you're talking about women's refugees. What is it? So
let's talk about
before
that
you
soccer,
can draft the letter,
group,
you've got to know who
soccer.
you are, and you've got to have the basic momentum and energy of the businesses that say, this looks like good corporate social responsibility, and it's free, and it's going to produce me customers. Yes, I'll give it a shot. Now, somebody's got to set that up in Vancouver, and we've had a couple of initiatives in Vancouver to try and get people interested in it, and it's been hard for us to sell the concept to the community. But that doesn't mean the concept is ineffective. In fact, whenever we've had the resources to actually try doing it, and we tried it in the Comox Valley here, and we tried it in Tofino, Ucluelet, the setup costs and the energy required to put it in place were quite manageable. Now, we couldn't afford to come and do it in Vancouver because it was too much dislocation, too much monthly cost for two guys from
But you try to do it in Vancouver. You know Commercial Drive, you know the Van City on the corner of First and Commercial, you know the Britannia Community Centre and School. Why did it not take off in Commercial Drive, which is only 5 blocks from where I live?
Colin.
The reason
Colin,
it didn't happen...
Hang on for a sec. Hold on, Colin. Okay? It's not a matter of why doesn't it work. I mean, let's look at...
Or how do we make it work?
Hang on. That's what I'm going to tell you.
That's the question.
That's what I'm going to tell you. Okay? For instance, let's suppose you are the coach of that soccer team that's out there, and you need uniforms, you need balls, you need stuff, right? And you've gotten as much as you can from the parents, and you've gotten as much as you can from the businesses around, and you still need more. So you say, okay, how about we set up a community way around here? And you and a couple of the parents go around to the businesses up and down Commercial Street, and you ask them if they will donate $1,000 or $2,000 community way dollars to your soccer club. It's that simple. They donate the $2,000, you raise $20,000 or whatever from those businesses. The businesses have gone negative $20,000. The soccer club is positive $20,000. The parents then buy the community money from the soccer club because they know they can spend that community way money with the businesses, the 20 or 50 businesses on Commercial Drive that donate it. And the money just goes round and round and round. It's that easy.
But that's a description of the process. What Colin was asking was, so suppose in Vancouver, how does it start? Who does it? What's the kickoff? What's the ignition of the process? Is that right, Colin? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, on one hand, yes. And on the one hand, I'm inspired to say, look, I don't have time to talk anymore. I got to go and knock on all the doors in the neighborhood because I know exactly the right people. I know the president of the community center. I know the bank manager.
Terrific. Let's do it.
You know what? I've done it before. Not in this particular open money thing, but you've done it in this open money. I've done it with direct.
Well, let's do it together then.
And one way or another, there's all sorts of reasons why these people don't do what...
No, not those people.
All right, now hold on, Colin. Why they don't do democracy and why they don't do open money are sort of two different issues. Democracy, the issue is not directly financial. You can't say to the people who might support direct democracy that the $100 that they put into the process in some way is going to produce them an income, revenue, more customers or something. It's just a good thing to do. Now,
it's a much harder sell. It's a much harder sell, but it's the same process, and I'm convinced that the same communication difficulties are at the heart, because
communication is at the heart, Colin, but it's not difficult. What's difficult is perceiving...
When the same residents want to block traffic running through their neighborhood, they ultimately succeed, but it takes 10 years of community pressure on government for it to happen.
That's a whole different
the same community
model.
Leaders that do the same thing, and that's direct democracy.
I'll tell you what happened when somebody did this in Germany, which was the simplest method of doing it, is you send out a 15 or a 17-year-old blonde girl to talk to the local businesses. And the girl goes into the businesses and says, how would you like to help our school? And the guy looks at her and says, would be nice, but what's it going to cost? And she says, it costs you nothing. You just sign here. This is what happens. Look, there's no cash lost. How about it? Now, because it's done with a young Rhine maiden, the sign-up rate is very high. Ernie did it, however, and he's no young Rhine maiden, and he got a very high sign-up rate, even in the Comox Valley. If Ernie was living full-time in Vancouver, he could turn on Commercial Drive in a matter of weeks.
I believe that.
Recruit
the young maidens.
Sorry,
I believe
Colin?
that because Ernie would recruit the young maidens to be the front line.
And even if he didn't, he could do it himself, because the proposition is dead simple. You go into a business and you say, here's a deal, it costs you nothing, you get revenue, you get charitable breaks, you're doing good in the community, and there's all these potential spin-offs that you will realize as you find out how it all works. Is there a risk here? The business is either going to say, I don't like you, go away, or it's going to say, yeah, maybe I'll give it a thought. So your qualification process can be about 30 seconds. You find out whether the business is real or business is bullshit. And sure enough, most businesses are too damn busy to pay any attention, so you qualify them off the list and you go on to the next one. But the hit rate is high, the revenue is very strong, and as soon as you set up the businesses, the whole thing is an unfolding process. After that, the costs are virtually nil.
Michael, you keep emphasizing that the business is the key to it, and I'm sure that in financial terms you're correct, because they're the trading medium. But I do believe that the key to it are these mothers and fathers who have sons and daughters who want to play soccer or whatever.
That's right. The transition when the first donation just puts funny money or gift certificates or coupons to purchase, as it were, in the hands of the beneficiary organization, the school, the soccer club, whatever. That's easy, and it didn't do anything yet. The key factor is indeed when the parents, the soccer mamas, the supporters of the school band, the people who want environmental repair of the park, when the people see, here is my project, the thing I want to happen, and I can put $100 in there and I get $100. So it's not like straight donation where I've got to reach into my pocket, part with the cash, and it's gone. It may be a good thing to do, but it's hard on my spending power. This way, I give $100 to the soccer group, and I've got $100 that I can spend in all these businesses. So I didn't lose a damn thing, and I did a good thing. Two for one.
Isn't the driving force even further down the food chain? That the driving force is the kid coming home and saying, Mommy, I want a pony, or Daddy, I want a clarinet.
That's the urgency. That's the reason why the parent says, damn right I'm going to put up $100. There's the value gained is what it does for the kids, what it does for the local neighborhood, what it does for the environment, whatever your cause is. So that's why the parent, the financial changer, can say, I will change the money. It doesn't hurt, and we all win. Now, it's the win-win-win. You see, the Soccer Association wins because it's got a new cash revenue source. First of all, it gets the donations from the businesses and community money. Then it changes them into cash. Yahoo! A new fund source. The people gain because Johnny gets to play soccer. I get to put cash into the uniforms, but I also get community money to spend on my groceries. And the businesses win because they've done good in the community and they've generated a customer base, a higher loyalty system from their support for the soccer. So everybody gets to win around soccer. But it might be everybody gets to win around Women's Refuge or around the school band or around the VSO. It's an everybody wins circuit. And once people see that, we're off.
I think looking at the diagram at the website is a very useful thing because you can see how the money goes around that circle, from businesses to community organizations to people, back to businesses, and back around and around and around. And I think that's the other piece of this, is that the money, once it's made that loop around, doesn't stop, it keeps going. And that diagram is up on openmoney.org/CW.
Now,
so I can't wait.
We've been stuck with this problem, Colin, for 10 years now.
Oh, I know.
We're out in the woods, and we tried to do it here in too small a place. We didn't want to do it here. It wasn't the right place, but eventually we did it here because we couldn't get anybody in Vancouver to go further than humming and hawing and reviewing it. We had good support in the Kitsilano region. We had mixed support in Commercial Drive from the Britannia Centre. That mixed support evaporated, and it left us high and dry and bankrupt one more time. And bankrupt not just cash, but bankrupt in our reputation. One more time. We've been to Vancouver, and we've knocked on all the right doors, and we talked to the Capers people, and we talked to the Suzuki Foundation, and we talked to Van City, and we had everybody saying, well, maybe. And then after another 3 months of dithering, we got to the point of them saying, well, I guess you guys are bums from the country. And we've had another 10 years of nothing.
Did you talk to the parents? Did you talk to the kids in the schools? Did you talk
We didn't get to that level. We needed to have the corporate and institutional support before we could afford to be there. Now, if somebody locally says, I can talk to the parents on the I will if you will level, and that's often the way you get this, is you get 20 parents just sampled. You get a positive response from them, and then you go to your association, the Soccer Association, and you go to the 3 businesses that you have some connection with, and then you've got the startup built from there. So it can come from that pure grassroots level. The difficulty for us is which grassroots? Where do we go as people from the Comox Valley when we parachute into Vancouver? We can't parachute in and become the soccer saviors. We've got to parachute in.
Or Seattle, or San Francisco, or Santa Cruz, or London, or any of the many, many places around the world that Let Systems and Community Way have been, not even attempted. I mean, where we've been invited to talk to people and possibly develop something together. It's difficult to do long distance. It would be so much easier if there was a group, such as a soccer group in Vancouver, or an Awake and Aware business group in Powell River, Toronto, wherever, that could see the potential of the money to not only revive the economy, but to revive their communities.
I mean, the obvious place for it is Kitsilano or Commercial Drive in Vancouver. and you tried 10 years ago, are you ready to try again?
Anytime.
Well, we'd be ready to try again if the community is willing to give it a look. And indeed, as you see on that Gnomedex presentation in Seattle, I did announce that we are coming back to reawaken Van City to the possibilities. Van City is a very progressive organization.
They are.
And they've done some very, very good work over the last 50 years. They've pioneered many initiatives that would not have been brought in by the commercial banks and would not have been capable of being brought in by the small credit unions. Now, this is one that could be done by small credit unions, but at the same time, we see the value in challenging Van City on its own principles. It says it's a progressive organization intent upon serving the needs of the community. Well, then let's discuss Van City's part in a Community Way project. And this time
Michael,
we're looking at...
Yeah, I agree with you. I have daily contacts with Van City. I play bridge with the chair of Van City. We never talk about anything but bridge. I know the bank manager quite well. And, when I have a complaint, I talk to the vice president, and they tell me to go to hell. So on all levels, Van City is a wonderful, horrible organization.
As usual, yes. And Van City has a couple of entry points now. There is the changeeverything.ca site, and there is another one called weallprofit.vancity.com. And they're both entry points for the general public to make a challenge to anybody in the community, but in particular to the Van City itself, that they get real about the issues that face us and the technologies we have to address them. It's a bit like you suddenly have solar technology to replace a good deal of the power grid. It would be utterly irresponsible, in fact, negligent of the BC Hydro not to implement such issues. Well, when you have a similar transition in the financial services, it's negligent of a community-oriented business like Van City to not take part, not to be the driving force. So we're going to challenge them essentially on their ignorant negligence. Now, ignorance is not a crime. Once you've explored
it's a very high state of being.
It is, yes. Yes, the original
compared with a lot of attitudes, ignorance is beautiful.
It is, and it can be addressed. And once ignorance is addressed, then negligence can be remedied. And that the credit union movement as a whole, and Van City in particular, have not taken up on this is actual negligence. Time to fix it.
So why don't we have a meeting?
Sure. You mean like in person, like live?
Yes, I'll call half a dozen people together for a meeting, and we'll form a new non-profit group to do this.
A new non-profit group to do what?
Yeah, to do Community Way.
To do this. I'm being a bit sardonic, but...
No, please. No new non-profit group, no committees, no boards, please.
No meetings?
Meetings are okay. No, meetings are okay. I think it's good for people to come together and talk.
A steering committee, an activist community, a group of people who think this is a good idea, that's great. A non-profit is probably one bridge too far. Don't go there.
It's an anchor.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with existing. There's lots of existing nonprofit organizations doing excellent work, and they can use community money to good effect.
And they could be the organizational carrier for a general initiative. It would be perfectly reasonable for them to become the figurehead organization.
let's talk offline about this a bit, because there are the photographs, the pictures in my head of 6 particular people spring to mind who all have connections in this particular area of Commercial Drive where I live. And and one has recently retired as a bank manager. But they all have, despite their age, they're all over 40. They all have this incredible drive, and they are plugged into the community.
Great.
And then my daughter comes to mind too. She doesn't live in this area anymore, but she knows it intimately.
Yeah,
but she's too old. She's 30, right?
So, sure, if you can get them to put up some money to get us both over there, just some transportation money, that'd be great. And feed us.
Apart from anything else, if you've got a few people together, we can hold a meeting by telephone. So the potential ways to open this discussion, they don't have to be expensive. No, and we are in town on occasions. So,
in fact, they can join us on Blog Talk Radio right here on Open Money.
Mm-hmm.
If they have questions, it'd be very. It's like we can deal with some basic rudimentary questions before we actually get together, so that when we get together, we're actually talking about doing something.
Well, let's talk offline about it. Go back to your moderator's chair, Ernie, and get us back on track.
Well, we are on track. This is exactly... No, this is exactly...
Yes, but we can't carry it forward any further in this conversation. We've identified that possibility of doing something locally in Commercial Drive, but it can't be handled in this conversation. So where shall we go in this conversation?
Certainly. Okay.
I think we should perhaps go towards a little bit of a wrap on this week's opening of Blog Talk Radio Open Money, and some projections about what we might discuss next week.
That's an excellent idea. So we got 7 minutes remaining. So this week and next week.
Well, next week's easy, so let's deal with that quickly.
Yeah.
Next week's more of
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m.
That's the plan, and it'll probably be followed. And again, we'll continue to explore this issue of paradigm shift, of what is the impediment to people's ability to see this, and what do we know about that from our history, what do we see about it from our current situation, and where do we propose to go with it. On this, we'll use the presentation I recently made at the GnomeDex event, the BlogFest for the cutting-edge techies and social network organizers that took place in Seattle in the beginning of August. And
what's
video
that website, Michael? Chris Perillo? What is it? ChrisPerillo.com?
Well, you can go to gnomedex.com and you'll find links there that take you to the right place. You can also go to lets.net and you'll find links there that will take you to the conference presentation that I made, the presentation slides that I used, and there's a transcription of what I said. And it's very mixed material, but there's a lot of it. And some of it is very useful. I might even say very good. Sometimes it's even quite funny. But above all else, it addresses this issue of looking for the breakthrough in people's consciousness that enables them to even see what we are talking about. Because what usually comes up for people is the flat earth. If God had meant us to fly, he would have given us wings level of resistance and block. And this is real.
Okay.
And it's a human condition, and it's a cultural condition, and we've got to address it.
Okay, so that's what we're going to start with next week and see where that takes us. Colin, what are you up for next week in terms of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m.?
Well, that's my snooker practice time, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m., but perhaps on one of these days I can forego my snooker practice and join you. let me just...
Or you can stay with your snooker and you can listen up later. You see? That's the advantage of Blog Talk Radio. Don't have to be
I will definitely do that. Let me say that your use of the word breakthrough, Michael, I haven't heard that word for a long time. And it reminds me that my ex-wife, whom both of you know, worked for 2 years for the Breakthrough Foundation in San Francisco. And they really did have an advance in technology in breakthrough at that time. And of course the organization still exists. I've dropped in on the organization a couple of times in the past year, and it's just as bright and vibrant and out there and happy and productive and making money as it ever was. And somehow it's not really impacting in the way that it's now 30 years ago, I thought it would impact.
Yes, well, I think we thought at that time that enthusiasm and spirit and energy and creative desire and so on, a bit like All You Need Is Love, whoop-de-doo, if you remember the music. Turns out I
was thinking of something different.
Well, we've got 3 minutes left, guys, so let's wrap it up. We're not going to talk about last week. We've got next week figured out. This is Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. I'm Ernie Jacob. That's Colin Stark in Vancouver, and Michael just down the road, Michael Linton. So, 2 more minutes. What do you say?
The breakthrough is money. If we need, you need aspiration and intent, but you also need the means by which you do this. Wanting to achieve something is no good unless you have the tools, the methodology, the capacity. And all the time we've been talking about breakthrough in our society, the end of war, the emergence of social justice, the United Nations Declarations of Rights, the opportunity to solve hunger and poverty worldwide. What's in the way? Money is in the way. Every damn time. It's the money that's doing this, and it's the lack of money that's preventing the other. And we need to resolve, first of all, what the lack of money prevents, and that will do a lot about what we are seeing the power systems currently do with their control of the monetary world.
I would put it the lack of the right kind of money, because there are some places where there's a ton of it, and that's through national aid organizations like Canada's CEDA that is that has got a ton of money going into Haiti, and of course it's going in the wrong direction, and various other places around the world, So it's like democracy. Democracy is better than not having a vote, whatever way you call democracy, but it's hardly reached the epitome in its quality. We've got to deal with not just the good aspects of a democratic process. We've got to deal with the deficient aspects that are currently the main presentation of democracy. Similarly with money. Okay, 1 minute, Colin, last word.
I'll take 30 seconds to say that we have to link this to harnessing human energy, or to have human beings harness their own energy to this end. When I took my MBA in 1969, I was impressed by an article by Professor Al Michalewski, University of Western Ontario, entitled Canada's Waste of Human Potential. And here the three of us, maybe I should only speak personally, I'm spending my human potential playing badminton, snooker, and bridge.
Good. Well, have fun.
I will.
Okay, so we'll talk by Skype after this show is over. We've got actually 40 seconds left.
Well.
And I guess it's time for an extra.
I'm hanging up. See you guys.
You're hanging up. Okay. Well, this is Open Money on Blog Talk Radio. I'm Ernie Jacob. we were talking together with Colin Stark, Vice President of Canadians for Direct Democracy. I have trouble with that one. Canadians.
I'm still here.
You're there, yes.
Yep.
Okay, and Michael Linton, the designer-developer of Let Systems and Open Money. And that's about it for us for today. Today being Friday, October the what?
The 5th.
October
and
the 5th.
The sun is shining in Vancouver, and in a minute I'll be out and look at the mountains again.
Right, me too. I'm going to go outside and breathe some air. Then we'll call you.
Talk to you again. Take care,
Okay.
Ernie.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Michael. Bye.
And bye, world. If anybody out there listening to this, we're out of here. See you on Monday, 10 a.m.